So I'm going to try and do some close-ups with the camera just so we can walk through how to play the steps. And some of my boards are all scratched up on the back, so they are kind of marked. It's not a huge deal. I'm not worried about it. I'm not going to try to memorize anything. So let's see what I got. I have number 5, which is agriculture. See right there. And coercion. So I have Zera and Kar, the Crimean Conti. Alright. So this is who I will be. Alright, and let's see. Don't need the player boards for the computer, but I do pick one of these just to randomly have one. And my camera is messing up. I don't know why. Let's see if I can fix that up. So this is with the computer. So I've begun the initial setup for my character. I have all of my monuments where they go, my extra workers. Here is my leader and the 2 workers for the initial placement. All the cubes are on the green spots, and then these recruits will go here to cover up these bonuses. Then I look here and I start on 4, so I will put this on the 4 on the prestige chart. And here I start with 5 power strength and no combat cards. So I will put this on the board on the 5. And we'll take a look at that in a moment. Now, the computer player, for the AI, I have their board setting here, ready to go. They have their leader and the mechs, then they have their stars sitting here, and then they have their workers, and that is all they need. That is all they need. The Automa system will simulate their resources and such like that. So, have those there. I have their heart on the 10. It will never move. Their prestige level will always be at 10. Mine started at 4 according to the board. Then if we pan over here, okay, I have my attack on 5. I will double check to see what theirs is. It says 3 on the sheet, but it may be a special start condition for the Automa, so I will look at that in a moment. Now, this is pretty cool. They have these that talk about what each kind of unit can do, and one thing they do mention in the rulebook is these are plastic, so only plastic pieces can fight. They are the only combat pieces, so that makes it easy for you to remember. Only the plastic can fight. But here's a cool little reference sheet, and on the back it gives you some quick start suggestions for like newer players. Hey, try to work on this on your first turn, second turn, etc. Combat and movement synapses, and then here on the back, this is cool, has a mini map, and then it shows you each faction and what their Riverwalk ability allows them to do. So that's pretty cool. Nice little cheat sheets. Then we have the Automa system cards. So I'm going to wimp out. If you notice here, this is the hardest one. They have Riverwalk from the beginning. 3, 4, 5 steps before they can Riverwalk. So this is the easy. It says right there. I'm going to start with easy. And I'm going to play the variant where it says in the rulebook, if you see a red X through here, on the easiest difficulty, you choose to ignore this card. They do nothing that turn. So you could think of it as the computer is taking the produce resources move or something like that. So they're not moving across the board. They're not doing anything. They're just producing, or they just built a monument or whatever. They're just staying in their own territory. They're not being aggressive. So every time the X comes up, I will get to avoid that. So I will mix these up. Then we have these, and these cards are little cheat sheets. It has all the symbols for the Automa system. So if you have this little cross swords and the meeple, it's attack move versus workers. Like if you see a hex with workers, and then There's an attack with your mech or your leader. So it has all the symbols and tells you what they do. Okay, nice little cheat sheets for the Optimus system. Okay, so this is correct according to their power level. They get 3 and they get 2 cards to start. Now I've already shuffled these some. I'll shuffle all of them some more, but let's say for instance you have 2 of these wheels. One's for attack, one's for defense. Okay. Cool thing on this board, if you notice, there's a red circle on the 7. That's just to remind you that that is the most strength you can ever spend in a combat. This wheel shows you how much you spend, so it's from 0 to 7. And you can always slide 1 card under for each one of your fighting units that's in there. So for instance, this would be an attack strength of 7, this would be 5, and so forth. Now, I could do this and have an attack strength of 3, okay? This 0 next to this symbol means that I'm spending 0 of these. Now, if I had had it here, I would have to spend 2. So, boom, boom, I go down 2. Whether I win or lose, I immediately would go down 2 because I spent that. Okay? Now, if you lose a combat and both of these numbers combined are greater than 1, then you get to draw one of these as a reward for losing when you retreat. But only if these 2 numbers are great. So this would not result in anything. Okay? But the Automa does combat different, so we don't need these. I can put these to the box. I will shuffle these up. They get 2 to start. I get 0. Theirs are always drawn randomly. And then just up there at the top of the board, we will put that there. Okay? Then we have factory cards for the middle of the board, which is right here, has the same symbol. Okay, shuffle these up. I've done that already. And you draw 1 per player plus 1. There we go. And then we have the quest cards. You shuffle those up, and everyone will get 2 of those. And there is a spot on the board right here for those. Okay. Now, of course, the AI player doesn't need any, but I will go ahead and draw 2 and just put them over here. My hero or leader, whatever you want to call it, would go there. And then there are 2 hexes. This unit cannot move into water right now at all. So you look at the 2 land hexes here that produce, and they have 1 worker, because I had 2 workers left over when I put everything onto my board. Oop, also forgot. I stuck it there to remind myself, and I forgot 5 coins. The AI starts with 5 coins. I will just put that on their board there. So they have all their pieces there. I'll move that off the board in a moment, out of the way. And then we have these here. These are encounter cards. They go right here. I've already shuffled them up. I need to put encounter tokens on the board. If you see this symbol, okay, then you would put an encounter token. And if one of your plastic pieces is in there at the end of the round, okay, at the end of the combat round, which happens between the middle or the top and the bottom phase, I'll show you that. But then you pick this up and use it to get the card. That way you can remember if it's been used or not. And what I'm talking about is, if I choose to do this action, this is the top, this is the bottom. So I complete the top, then that's when combat would take place. And if one of my plastic pieces is on there, then I get, and if one of the AI's, Automa's plastic pieces on it, you just remove the token to show that it's been done. Then you would perform the bottom action. Okay? Let's take a moment to look at the 2 quest cards I got for this game. It's numbers 14 and 17. Now, in the rule book, they even talk about this. You get 2 quest cards. As soon as you complete one, you place a star, and you discard the other one. So you only get to complete one of them. One of the factions has a special ability to let you complete both. And the reason they do that is if during the game you start working toward one of these and you can't quite get it, different things happening in the game, you can switch tactics and move to this one because now you're closer to that one. It still doesn't hurt your chances of completing it. So it's really, really a neat insight. Really a great idea. So let's just take a look at these 2, for example, that I have here. It's hedge your bets. So have at least 1 upgrade. 1 mech, 1 structure, 1 recruit, and 1 of each resource at the end of my turn. That means they'd have to be on the board unspent. So this could be hard, it could be easy. It's hard to say right now, but this would kind of, early in the game, you can kind of spread yourself out, see what's working, do a little bit of everything. You might could accomplish that one. Or here, divide and conquer. Have no factory cards and control at least 2 territories adjacent to the factory at the end of your turn. This might not be too hard to do. Okay? Especially if you just rush toward the factory and then start controlling them. So at least 2 territories. To control them, all you have to have is a monument in there with no enemy presence there, or have your plastic piece in there and at the end of your turn. So that might not be too bad. Okay, next we have these, which are like bonus points with your monuments in-game scoring. Let's just randomly take one and put that there. This one says, for all of my monuments that are placed in a row at the end of the game, I will earn extra points. Okay, then final setup. I went ahead and got this token out of the board. I'm going to set this here. This shows you use side 1. Then every time you get a star, it fills up. And when it reaches here, then you will switch the card around and use the harder side. So I'll set this over here. Then I place their hero and 2 meeples on the board just like you normally would for a normal player. And I think that is it. We are ready to go.
Alright, so in the solo player game, the player always gets to go first and turns alternate. And I think I'm going to start with produce. Now, if you notice, it says to pay, but I don't pay anything. All my extra workers are covering up the spaces. Now, once I get 2 out, you might be able to see this small eagle icon. That is your strength. You would have to pay 1 of your actual strength to get a worker out. But I don't have to worry about that right now. And I can produce on lands with a worker on up to 2 different lands. Well, if we look right here, I have exactly 2 workers. Here is some food and a worker. So now I come back down here. I grab this worker and put it there. Next time I get a worker, I still do not have to pay anything. So the next one will be free as well. And I got to get that food. So let's put a food out here in the field, and that is my turn. Now let's take a look at the Automa player. Flip over the top card, and we look here, there's no X. Okay, so this symbol in parentheses means if they are playing with this faction, then you try to do this. Do an encounter at the factory, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and we can look through here. Okay, but they're not playing as that faction, so we can skip it. So then we're going to move a worker. Then, if they are playing as this faction, they would receive their hero or mech out on the board, but they're not. Then they're going to receive a worker and a coin. And if we had unlocked the enlist action with the coin, we would get a coin. I'll show you that in a moment. And then the star. So let's start with the star. That'll be easy. We just move up here and boom. They still cannot cross rivers, but they are closer to being able to do that. Okay, that is what the star in the center means. Now, if we look at my player board here, all of these recruits, these are extra recruits, and they give you a bonus underneath each one. Okay, so if I had this one removed on my board and this was showing, then this card says I would get the coin bonus. But I don't, so we don't have to worry about that. Let's go back up here to where it says move a worker. Right now there's only 2 workers on the board. Both of them are the same distance from the home base, so there's a tie. Okay, so what we need to do is, since this is the only legal spot they can move to, either one of them can go. So if you read left to right, top to bottom like this, this would be the first one we get to, and it just moves there. It just kind of teleports there. Bam. That is the move action. Then they receive a worker and a coin. So I just grab one of the extra workers and put it on their base, because if it gets ready to move, it'll just move there. This will be the next closest one to the base, and boom, it'll just teleport. And then I grab them a single coin and just put it on their player mat. And that is the Automa's turn. And I think this time I will go with move. Now, I can move one unit, one space, and one other unit, one space. That is not one unit twice. Or I can get a coin. I can't do both. But this time I'm going to move. So I'll just move one of these workers into the mines, and then I think I'll move my main person here. Try to get over here toward this encounter token. Now it is back to the AI. And we have the factory encounter action again, or move our hero. They will gain a worker and a combat card, and if we had the recruit, we would gain a combat card, but we don't. And we have a star. So let's move the star up one. Then I will grab one of these workers and put it over onto their board, onto their home base. Here is the extra worker they get right there. Then they also got a combat card. We're not supposed to look at that, so I'll just put that over there on their board. Then the movement. Okay. Factory, if can, if they don't have a factory card yet, which they don't. Or encounter, if they're able to do that. If not, they just simply move their hero. Well, the factory is way over here across the river, and they don't have a way to get across the river yet. Okay? But there is an encounter, and they already have a person in there, so they're able to just move down here, pick this up. We just discard this. They don't actually have an encounter, but it represents that they did, so that we can't move there and get an encounter. With my next turn, I'm going to go here for the trade. So let's pull this aside and show you. First, I have to pay a coin. One of my starting 7. Start of a 7. Now, I can trade with a worker on up to 2 spaces. It's not 1 worker, 2 resources. It's 1, 2. So, I have workers on 3 spaces, so it doesn't really matter which spaces I choose, because I get to choose any goods I want. That's the point of trading. Especially early in the game when you're isolated, I can only produce ore and food. So I'm going to produce 2 oil. He's going to trade for oil there, trade for there. And you don't actually have to trade away your goods. You paid for it right there. So I got the 2 goods. Or I can get a reputation. But nope, I'm going to do the 2 goods, 2 oil. That is my turn. And the Automa player, okay, so here is the blue faction symbol. So they do not get this action. You would only take this action or consider it if they were blue. They're not. So you go to this one. Again, factory or encounter. So we will look at that in a moment. Or then they just simply move their hero. They will gain 1 power and 1 worker. So I will just pick up a worker and stick it on their home base and increase their power from 3 to 4. We'll look at that in a moment. And then if I had the recruit with power, I would get a power. I don't. 1 star. So we just move ahead. They are almost to their Riverwalk ability. Now let's move the camera. Okay, so let's move that power up. Then let's move the camera a little closer and look here. Here is another worker. There. Now, they still don't have Riverwalk yet. They can't get over here close to the factory. Okay? They can't even get closer. So, this character will move. So we pick it up. Then we look, which space can they move to in their territory, in their neighborhood, that the most units can move to? Well, they can all reach this one. So she's just going to go visit this village here, maybe try to raise morale or something like that. So, there it is. She's done. Now I've got a pretty good turn going this time for me, so I will go back over here to the move action. So, I can move 2 units, 1 space. Alright, well, let's move this worker, let's move him over here to the food. Let's do that. And I will move my hero over here because there is an encounter token. Alright. Now, before I advance, I go to this encounter token. This is the end of the combat round, which is between the top and the bottom. So I draw an encounter card from over here. I'm not going to look at that yet. We'll come back to that in a moment. I'm going to do things just a little bit out of order since I have the camera here. Right here, pay to oil. Well, I have an oil here. Even if this person was not there, I could still use this oil because it is on a territory that no enemy is on, that I have at least a worker, so I can claim ownership of those resources. So I will use this oil and this oil. And I will pay for the upgrade cost. So this little gear symbol means upgrade. Let's see if we can get that on camera right there. Upgrade. So I paid 2 oil, got the upgrade, and I get a coin. So I will get that coin back that I paid earlier for the market trade. Boom. So now what this means is I can grab any. It doesn't have to be from this board or this action. It can be any of these cubes on top. I'm going to grab this one and simply slide it down here. Now, here is the reason why. When I take this action, I can now get 2 combat cards. My faction did not start with any combat cards, but each turn I can use 1 combat card as any resource. Now I have reduced the cost of enlisting recruits, which I want to do later on to get those benefits off of the AI's cards to, just help me get extra free stuff. So, let's move the camera over here and look. Well, I'll just move this out of the way and look at the encounter card. So, we have some snowy hills. We have a mech over here. We have some soldiers on horseback. Let's see here. I can humbly take orders from my superior officer, and I gain 1 combat card and 1 popularity. I can give the villager a ride home on the horse. So I pay $2 and then I gain 4 of their wood. Well, that would be good. The wood. What could I use the wood for? Yeah, building a monument. That's basically a free monument. Okay. I can threaten to create an avalanche with my bazooka. I would have to lose 2 popularity, but I get to enlist 1 free recruit. Well, I definitely don't want to do that one. Let's see, do I want the combat card, which is 1 free good and 1 popularity? I definitely want to start getting my popularity up, but yeah, I think I'm just going to stick with that. I'm just going to be safe and gain 1 combat card and 1 popularity. So, this goes back to the bottom of the deck, and I will draw a combat card. Oop, it's a level 2, and I move my popularity up from 4 to 5. Now, if you can see this line, at the end of the game, if my heart is here, then this is the value that I get for all the stars and all the tiles I control, and then, or territories, and then all of the, for every 2 goods, I get 1 coin. So if I can get it up here, then at least my points at the end would go up. Okay, and that is it for my turn. I had me a pretty good turn. Let's see what the Automa's going to do. And, oh, there it is. The red X through the gear star symbol. Since I'm playing with the Scaredy Cat Easy mode, I just ignore everything on this card, even the bonus. So, for instance, if I had unlocked the gain a combat card, I would even ignore that. I just ignore everything. Boom. And this is to kind of represent, on this turn, the AI, all they did was take the gather resource action or build a monument, something like that. Alright, so back to me. Alright, so last turn I kind of set myself up for this move. I want to do the bolster action. Let me move that out of the way. So it will cost 1 coin, not a problem. I can either get 2 strength here, or I can get 2 combat cards. Now, I want to get the 2 combat cards. That's why I moved this, because I can use 1 as a resource, and I got a 2 and a 4. Excellent. I'll hold on to that 2, because now I simply move down, and I can even use this card I just got right here to do this. So I need to pay 2 food. 1, 2. Well, I'll pay this food on the board, and I can only spend at max 1 card per turn as a resource. So I will spend this as food, and that lets me enlist. So what the enlist does is it lets you pick up one of these, any one I want, and move it to my other board. Well, I want this one because it's going to give me a free combat card every time me or the player to my left or right use this action, which when in an AI, it's simply when that icon appears in the middle of the card. So, bam, because those are free resources for me. And it'll help me in case, because I feel like I will have a combat with the computer eventually. But there we go. So I will put this on my player board. Let's take a look at that. In the rulebook, they even have a designer's note to remind you that before you take this action and figure out, or any of these actions down here, and you figure out what you want to do, you might want to grab the coins. So I get 3 coins, and of course I forgot to do that. So, got my 3 coins. Now I take that recruit. Here are my 2 combat cards. Let's get those out of the way. And you can see once per turn, I maybe spend 1 card. So, I get to put this anywhere I want over here. So I get 2, 2, 2, 2, whatever. Let's see, what do I want? I think I just want to take the 2 combat cards right now. So I will just draw 2 more. And I got another 2 and another 4. Now I could have placed him anywhere, but I'll just place that there for now. Then I can slide this up here for the AI turn. Let's see what they are up to. And we have again the factory or encounter, but we already know from last time they can't cross the river, and they've already done an encounter, so they will move their hero. Then they will gain a hero if the hero has been defeated and is not on the board, or a mech. So they're going to grab their mech, and I get nothing. Oh, that dirty AI. But they move up on the star mark chart here. So let's just move them there. This is the last time before they can cross the river. We grab a mech, and we will put that in their home base and move their hero. So the Automa cannot, of course, get to the factory or do an encounter, but they will move their hero. So you pick up the hero, and a valid move, it even states specifically in the rulebook, is to not move. Okay? This is the space that the most of their pieces can reach, and it's in numerical. It baits all the tiebreakers. Anyway, they'll just stay there, and then they get a mech into their home base. That is their turn. Back to us. And I think I'm going to do the produce step, and if you notice, I pay nothing. It's still blank for this moment, and I can produce on 2 tiles that have workers. Now, let's look at this before I move the camera. I can pay 4 wood. Well, I did not take that option with the encounter I had, so I cannot build a monument. So I will produce on 2 tiles that have workers. So let's just slide the camera up, and I have a worker here, okay, and they are on the metal or the steel, or so I will do that. And then I have 2 workers here on the farm. Now, when you take the trade action, you get 2 resources of your choice. That's it. But here, you choose 2 tiles, and you produce with everyone that you can. I have 2 workers there, so I will produce 2 food. And that is my turn. What is the Automa character up to this turn? Let's see here. What are they up to? Nothing. Now, I'm afraid this is going to be expensive, but I have to do it. I have to get going before the AI does. They're about to get Riverwalk. So let's go here. Move this out of the way. Pay 1 coin. Not a problem. And I can trade. And again, on this, you pick any 2 resources you want on up to 2 spaces that have workers. So if all my workers were here, I'd only get 1 resource. So let's put a metal there, and let's put a metal there. Then I will come down the board here for the pay action. 4 metal. It is going to be expensive, but gotta do it. So 1, 2, 3 metal, and I will use one of my level 2 combat cards. So 4 metal, I get to place a mech. I will grab the board and bring it over here. I want the Riverwalk one. Now all of my mechs, all my plastic pieces, okay, they can move across rivers if they land on a farm or an oil field. So it has to be a field or an oil field, okay, for me to walk across the river and land there. So that is the one I'm choosing. And if you notice, when you deploy it, it has to be somewhere where there is a worker. Okay, well, it doesn't really matter, either one. I'll just place it right there. That is my turn. I have my first mech on the board. And sorry about that. After thinking about it, I do want to put this one here where there are 2 workers, so I can take one with me later. Now to the Automa turn. Flip the card, and okay, so we're back to the factory or encounter, which they cannot do yet. So they will move their hero. Well, if you remember last time, they couldn't move. They just stayed where they were. So we'll look at that again in a moment, but they won't move. But now they're going to get 3 military power and a coin. So I'll drop the coin there. If I have unlocked a coin on my board, I would get a coin, but I haven't. But at least the star doesn't move. But they're getting 3 military power. Wow, let's take a look. The move action, they will just stay here because they would move to the location that the most units could move to, that is next to one of their units. Boom, they'll just stay there. So they're still in that village. Now we know why. She must have been fundraising and giving speeches and parades, and wow, 3 more military might, 3 more strength to the strength of their army. I really wish I had some oil so I could do this upgrade action, because I really need to move, but I don't. We'll have to try that again some other time. So I will take the move action. Now if I slide this over, I can move 2 units, 1 space, or get coins. Well, I'm going to move 2 units, 1 space. Okay? Can't pay for the upgrade, so let's not worry about that. Let's look at the board. Now, I unlocked the Riverwalk ability. It does not matter where I start from. What matters is where I land. Okay, I have the ability to surface on farms and oil fields, which is that. So this guy will pick up both of these workers and both of these goods. Now I could leave some of them here if I wanted, but if I took the workers and left the goods, I couldn't use the goods. So I'm going to take both of them. This is not to scale, but boom, they jump inside the mech. The mech crosses the river, comes up in the oil field, and that is one movement. That is just one movement. And, alright, everybody out. Get out, you bums. There we go. That's one movement, and then for the other movement, I will take my hero and move across the same way. Now, my workers are not able to cross the river, so I have to carry them. But I'll leave this one here. They can get me some more iron or steel or whatever later. So, one movement, two movements. Done with my phase. Let's go back to Automa. Now, I keep saying Automa. This is the difficulty Automata. Automa is what they just call the automated AI system, the robot. So let's see what they're going to do this turn. Okay, they're not playing with this faction, so we ignore that. They're going to move a worker. Then if they were this faction, they'd get a coin and then an extra coin. So we ignore that. They get one coin. Okay, and then we will move the star up. Now I'm going to go ahead and move the star up while I'm here. But they don't have Riverwalk at this moment. If you look right here, they do not have Riverwalk. Now they do at the end of this turn. So let's go look at the movement for the worker. What we want to do is pick up a worker closest to the base. Doesn't matter. There's 3. Then we're going to move it as far as we can closest to the factory, but they can't get to the factory. So then when we look at the spaces that they can move to, this one can move here or here, this one can move there or there, this one can move to there. So this is the furthest closest space. If you count, it would be 1, 2 away. So we'll just move that worker right there. Now, if they had Riverwalk at the start of this turn, they could actually just move right there. Their workers get the ability to Riverwalk, but they don't have it yet. They'll just go there. Back to our turn. Well, I think I need to produce again. Cannot take the same action, so I will move over here, and I still don't pay anything to produce. So 2 tiles, up to 2 tiles that have workers on them, and I do not have 4 wood. I don't even have 3 wood and a card. So production. Let's look at the board. I have 2 workers here. That is an oil field. And I have a worker here making steel. And that's my turn. And we have, okay, so this we have the attack worker. That means if they could move to a neighboring hex that has a worker, only a worker, no combat unit, they would do that and attack them. We'll look at the board in a moment because they can't. We'll have to do the move worker. Then they will gain a worker. I gain nothing, so let's pick up another worker. Okay, and I get nothing. They move up 1 on their star chart. Let's take a look. Okay, so for instance, if I had a worker setting here, the attack unit closest to their base would immediately move here to attack my worker. But if I had a mech in there with it, they would not, because that card said only attack defenseless workers. That's pretty mean, AI. But they were not able to do that, so they move a worker, which means they will move the worker closest to the base, closest to the factory that they can. Boom. 1 space away, and then they get another worker.